everyone, welcome back, or if you're first time with us, welcome today for this session for the IFCC Online 2020. We have a designer, Christian Graevski. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct.
So Christian is a professional vehicle, automotive, interior, and industrial designer. He has worked on a lot of projects in the past. He has worked for various companies and brands, including Volkswagen. I don't know. Just let let me remind myself because I've seen some other brands that you've been doing, Lamborghini, right?
Exactly, Lamborghini, Audi, Bugatti,
Skoda.
Bentley, Skoda. Yeah. I've just come to that point. Then I will talk about.
So and why this is important, because Christian will explain how he did a shift in his career, and how his interests maybe changed, and what he's working on now at the moment. So yeah, you can continue.
Hey, Marco. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. And yeah, and just apologies for my voice. I have just some allergy problems currently, so sounds a bit weird. But I hope that's okay for you guys. Yes, yeah, I will. Like I said, thank you very much for having me on. And yeah, I will just start a little bit and tell about myself. And before I go into my process and how I think, and then we will jump into Fusion 360, bit in Keyshot, and yeah, we'll just go through a couple of steps, yeah, which are important for me and hopefully for you. Okay, let's start. So I chose the topic for today is vehicle design workflow, from my initial thoughts to the final rendering using Fusion 360 and Keyshot. So, but Christian who? I think maybe some people might know me, some not. So I will just, and I think almost nobody knows what my proper background is actually and what I did in the past. So I left school actually after the 10th grade and did a apprenticeship as a metal worker. I was actually building lifeboats, and yeah, was welding, aluminium welding, stainless steel welding, and all those drilling and yeah, welding, all the stuff. So, and I think you can see that my work somehow just stuck to me. So, and yeah, that's why this is my background. So I just was always kind of drawing my whole life. I mean, like most creatives, whatever, but I had no clue what design was, whatever. There's no designer or artist in my family. My circle of friends know where I grew up in a little village with 100 people, just surrounded by the woods. I think yes, you can see that as well. And yeah, and then basically my friends told me always, yeah, you were drawing so nice, but when you see that here, I never really draw so well. It was just the portraits I drew for my friends and family to get a little bit of money. This were quite nice, and so. But I decided, yeah, I had the feeling somehow there's something, and yeah, I went back to school, got a higher degree, and so I with that. During that time, I was 22 then, and yeah, I started studying product design in Hanover, and this was actually the first time I came in touch with design itself and what a product design was, because until then I really had no idea. I was watching movies, but I always took everything for granted. I never really thought who was doing that. I thought, okay, this might be some magic creatures somewhere else, but yep, it was like that. And then in, I think 2004, a friend of me, Jan, actually introduced me to the Art of Star Wars Episode 1, the book. And yeah, I was just amazed by that. And with the product design, I just fell in love with all the concept art in there and the way they approach it. Yeah, and from that day on, I think I found my passion for design. And yeah, and you can see what was in 2004, when I was 24 years old, then 25 years old, all the basic sketching for perspective in school during study, and then my interest became also more car design related and concept art related quite a lot then due to the end of my study. When I actually decided to go into the automotive industry, which was kind of weird because I studied product design, but yeah, I had really, due to some friends, we were really pushing each other. So automotive inspiration and design, even if I didn't have any interest in cars, I still don't have any interest in cars. Somehow I just love the shape and the design of things. So I really was pushing to that. Oops, sorry. And yeah, that's why I did my final thesis at the MB Technology. But before I was actually an intern at the Volkswagen Studio Design Center in Potsdam, where I was in the interior team. And yeah, that studio was just amazing. And because in that studio, we were doing projects for the whole VW brand. This is what Marco just mentioned before. So in that studio, we were doing for Audi, Bugatti, Bentley, Lamborghini, Seat, Skoda, VW. For all those brands, we were able to do projects. And this was very, very unique in the automotive industry, that you had so many amazing brands under one roof. And yeah, we had always the task to just influence the other brands. And yeah, this was during my internship. And then during my internship, I was able to work on the Lamborghini project, on a production. And yeah, this actually, and because I was actually able to model my stuff in Alias in 3D, and due to this, they saved the other 3D modelers, which was kind of convenient for them, that an intern could do this. Yeah, and yeah, due to this, I got actually my job later on in Potsdam, because when I finished my final thesis in July of 2008, 1 week later, I got hired by Volkswagen, and I was a part of the team of the Lamborghini Stocker concept, where I was able to work in Italy for 4 months on a show car. And yeah, coming just out of your study, just being able to work on such a project, it was just amazing to me. And then being in Italy at Giugiaro Design, yes, just amazing. And just the head of design for the interior was Norbert Schneider, which was a great mentor all the time in Potsdam to me. Just a great guy. And yeah, it was just an amazing time when I started then out in Potsdam. And then I had this was just amazing, the amount of projects I were able to work on. And especially in Potsdam, we were not just designing a seat or a dashboard or a door or a center console. When we got the task to design an interior, we had to design everything. It means the whole dashboard, the doors, everything, the seats, the buttons, the interface, everything. This was very different to the when you worked at VW directly or at Audi directly. So you always, someone had the dashboard, someone had the door, someone had the center console, someone had the steering wheel, someone had the seat, someone the buttons, and yeah, and we were one man armies in Potsdam, which was really amazing. And yeah, those 4 projects I can actually show I worked on, and the Stocker Lamborghini, the VW Milano taxi, the Taigun VW. I had also to work again 4 months or 5 months in Italy with that project, which was amazing. And then the last one, I did the initial design and the CD model for it. But then my friend Aaron took the design, because I was on a other big project, and he built it with Bentley at the Bentley team, and they did a show car out of this. Yeah, this was actually really nice, and I did so much stuff for Audi, which I cannot show, but it doesn't matter in the end. It was just a great time, and I learned a lot, actually, and this is also I think, the way I design now, because I think very different due to the automotive way of thinking and building things. And this is really, I think, you can see in all of my designs. So, but yeah, I was doing all of this, but somehow I was kind of bored always in the evenings. So what did I do? I did tons of sketches, and there's just a little bit of all those sketches I did all with After 8. So I was just doing my concept art stuff again and again and again. A lot of this, and then at one point I decided, what do I suppose? What is this? Where is this going? And then I decided, okay, maybe I could do a sabbatical and just create my own book or something like this. I had the book in mind, and then maybe just take a year off, live off your savings, and just push yourself in building some of those concepts in 3D, and the creatures I had, and the vehicles, and just do something with it, just make them real. And then I had no idea about polygon modeling or UV editing or any of this. So I just asked my boss, and then I got a year off from VW, and that year changed actually my life completely. This was in the beginning of 2016. And by the end of 2016, I had all those stuff here, and like I said, I had no idea of ZBrush or whatever, and just did those vehicles. I chose a couple of them, and then with the idea to make a book, hopefully. It was a lot of work, and I fell really in love with what I could do in my spare time, and with my own creativity, somehow I went back in 2017 to go back to work at VW, but I really didn't like it anymore. My heart was somewhere else, so I decided I just quit my job and try to keep on pushing my own stuff and hopefully get some jobs with it. So this was then, and then, ta-da! I think it's the first time I can officially talk about that. I actually going to release a book with Design Studio Press by the end of this year. Then everything goes fine with the Corona stuff here, but I really hope so, that everything works out fine. And I think this will be a lot of new stuff in it, and I think I improved all my knowledge with all the stuff. And yes, I think this was kind of a dream, and in between it was the right way, the right decision to make, to quit my job, and now I just get other jobs and living at home, being at home with my girlfriend, just my dog every day, and not being off. And it's a nice living now, way better than being away for a weekend and seeing each other.
So, if I can interrupt you a bit, it was very interesting watching all the images from your automotive background, and right away I thought, it's amazing because this industry obviously has a lot of money available for not just for promoting their cars, but also for doing studies and concept cars and all this. So I could only compare it to maybe like a prop set design for big movies like Star Wars or something like that, where you also had the ability to it's possible that you won't get another chance to work on something like that in the future if you stick to your own concepts, which are related only to the virtual worlds, right?
Yep, that's true, and that's true and not true, but I can't talk about it. I just had the chance to do something like this again, but I can't really talk about it right now. But but in the end, it's not so important to me, because I made a decision and I have to live with it, with that decision. So I'm glad and I'm happy to do what I'm doing now. And honestly, I think if I wanted to go back, I just have to push myself again a little bit with the interior design thing or whatever. But I learned so much new stuff just going away from my automotive design, and then which I can now apply to automotive design again. It's just, it's always, if you never stop learning, you always improve. If you improve yourself, you can go back. I think it's no problem.
Well, maybe the right way of going back would be to wait for them to invite you because of what you did and will do in the meantime. So it will definitely be, you'll be in a different position then.
And the funny thing is actually I can talk about that is when I published all the stuff from my sabbatical online, I got a lot of requests from the automotive industry if I can just do a job there. And I got one request from a Silicon Valley based startup. It's called Zoox, and this former CEO, he really wanted me to work for them. And then this was after I quit my job, so I got lucky. I got this other really amazing job there in San Francisco, and I was again working on real life product, and but he chose me because I did all those other stuff. That's why it's really interesting, I think.
Well, while we edit, can you? I mean, when you're done, obviously I interrupted again. Can you also say like? How do you promote your services? Are you present on some platforms, or would you recommend some platforms or over others to those who are maybe thinking like, wow, how did that guy get in contact with him, and how did he knew about Christian?
He got over Behance in contact me, and that's basically Behance or just ArtStation. I have my portfolio, and and just on Instagram. Always just look for my name, and my name is pretty easy because there are not so many Christian Grajewskis on this planet, which is kind of good. No, but I'm really bad in promoting myself actually, because I'm very introverted. I'm not so much of a social media guy. But I think if your work speaks for yourself, or at least I hope that it does, people will contact you in the end, because you just have to trust yourself and and work your ass off a lot, and you have to take also a lot of critique, and you have to live with critique, and just that's normal. But in the end, just push yourself, and then people will come to you if they really need what they're looking for. And if this is you, then it's great. And
okay, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. So this is with the book, and which I'm really excited about. So, but now let's start with a little bit of what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, and some very basics. Which kind of hard to explain, but I try. So let's start. So I will go through this Armadillo motorcycle, which I actually designed in Fusion 360. And I chose this because a lot of people are using Fusion 360, and it's not that expensive than Alias is, because I love Alias, but it doesn't matter now. And I wanted to really learn Fusion 360 more. That's why I told myself, okay, you have to build this thing in Fusion. So, and let's start. How did I get there? So, but first, some basics. And this is the most important thing which most concept designers and concept artists are doing wrong, but this comes due to pooling modeling. Never, ever do parallel lines in your automotive design surfaces, because you don't do it. Never. There's always one perspective somewhere. It's bended. This is never really parallel. Lines are always meeting somewhere in infinity, somewhere. So this is very, very important, because if you do it, it will always look kind of wrong. You can tell it when you see it, and then you think, what's off, and you don't know it, and it's because you do parallel lines. So actually, if you build a spaceship, doesn't matter, except you build the Borg cube, then you stay with your parallel lines, but really try to always to give it a certain dynamic if you do it, and then otherwise it will look really, really static. And this is most people are doing this wrong. So, and the next thing is G1, G2 curvature. So what does that mean? So this is actually easy. What you can see here, those orange lines. There's a shadow. Marco, can you see the shadow which is going actually there when I skip? There's a shadow going around.
Yes.
And this shadow is G1 curvature, which is the main basic setup in Fusion. So, and this is really bad modeling actually when you use it for big surfaces, because then what you want to do is G2 curvature, because then you have a really nice and smooth surface. Yeah, and this is even better in Alias. Check there. And this is what Apple is doing for their products, for example. They are doing even G3, which is, I cannot really show what it really means because I don't have Alias at the moment because it's just too expensive. But what you can see is the big difference in the surface quality. And and this is just a really, really small object like a phone. And when you have big surfaces, it's just so much better. And that's why my designs look different. So, and how can you do that? In Fusion, there's the sculpt function. Everything stays G2 in curvature, and this is amazing. So you can really do really, really cool stuff. Most of the people are just using the simple modeling tool there, but you should really go and use the sculpt tool. So, and another thing is stay simple with all your designs. Don't do the right thing here on the right hand. This is what a lot of concept artists are doing. They using a phone, what we have nowadays, and they are doing the trillion shot lines, triangles, and whatever on a thing which is just 15 by 8 centimeters big. And I always ask me, why are you doing this? I mean, it's the future, and you're going back into the 80s. When you're doing this, it's just stay simple with your products. Think about shot lines. Look at real life products. Look at your external hard drives. How are they split? What kind of materials? Where are the shot lines? Always think about that, and don't add unnecessary lines, shot lines, or graphics, whatever. It just shows weakness when you do this.
So it's all about functionality and not about decoration.
The details are coming with the functionality. You don't add details because of the details. You think about how can I open this thing, and where do I need screws, and this is important, and not just nice line down, nice line. Nope, don't do this. So yeah, this is it sounds easy, but it is not. So that's why. So the next important thing is flow. This is really difficult to explain because it comes with intuition after a while, but I try to explain it. Because with all of my designs, I use nature as a big reference for me, because nature is the perfect designer in a way, because everything looks great, and especially the water creatures, they need to be aerodynamic. And aerodynamic has a certain flow and shape. So what do I mean with that? I mean this. The dolphin just can move, but in every single direction, wherever he goes, there's always a certain flow and the simplicity of the lines. And this is what I try to do in all of my designs. I think you can see it, but it's difficult to explain. But this is what my designs are about. They are always one smooth line with another integrated, but there is not. I will show later on what I mean with that, but maybe this gives a good understanding of what my designs are about, and you will see it. So let's go here. There's a side view, and from my armadillo design, bam. This is actually the flow what I just mentioned. I start somewhere here, and then I just do a nice line, but I don't do more. I don't go up here and whatever. With my major lines, I don't, because if you do it, your object will look stiff and not elegant and smooth and dynamic anymore. But when you close your eyes now a little bit, when you go back here, you close your eyes, and then this is the major outline you see, and it wasn't intentional, but it actually looks like a dolphin already. And this is you can also have a look at shark or something else. This is how I create actually my designs, and what I have always in mind. Stay simple with the lines. So, yeah, stay simple with the lines. Those are actually the Photoshop anchor points. And I would say that 90% of you would have built those curves very differently. But if you do that like this, you will always have a very easy, simple shape. And yeah, you have an anchor point here, here, and here. And then you can just control it with those little handles. And I didn't draw I didn't make any just nice sketch of this. I just built it because I had the feeling how it was, and then I checked it yesterday. And when I did this little graphic here, oh yeah, it fits perfectly. It's if you stay to those simple rules. Same for the top. So nice, smooth. You go in here, out, and bam, you have a nice dynamic. You have the smaller head, then you have the muscle, the back of the motorcycle, and then you have the legs here, and then it smooths it out, and you think really, you see that it's fast, the vehicle. I mean, let's go through the 3D perspective. It's really, you have here the dynamic, and then it goes away. So it's, yeah. So, but what are those thingies here? Yeah, what is this? What is 1, 2, and 3? So when you build a product, you have certain, you need to integrate certain things. And how do you integrate them? First, either you cover them or you integrate them in your design. So this is the hard surface model which needs to function. So it's not nature. So there some things need to rotate and everything. So keep that in mind. So what did I do? I wanted to have the front fork. I didn't want to cover this part here. I thought, okay, before I hide this, I actually emphasize it so that it sticks out, so that you see the function there where actually the fork rotates. And this is also, this comes from product design from my product design background. Apologies. That if it don't hide the function, just show the function. The same with point 2. This is where the hip rotates actually, because the 3 or the rear part is actually, I imagine, the leg. And this is actually point 3. Why there's this little hump there? Because I thought this is the back muscle of your leg, which sits on then the wheel, and here, and the front fork are the arms, and this creature sits in the middle and has 2 legs, and then it's driving. And this was my idea about this. So show functions and don't hide them, because you need the functions anyway. But with, yeah. So how to start? So these are basically some of the points I always keep in mind. I mean, write your theme down, think about technologies and their design influence. This is what we just talked about when I had the phone. When you design a phone or a motorcycle, whatever, how do you assemble it? What kind of technologies do you produce it with? Is it 3D printing? Is it milling? Is it welding? Where are the shut lines? And just look at those products and how they actually produced, and then maybe you can push it even further into the future, and then 3D printing or whatever, or underwater 3D printing, and you don't need anything anymore. Whatever. So, and I always have a look at nature. This is so important to me, because this is then the next point. Take design inspirations from another field. If you look at if you want to design a motorcycle, don't look at another motorcycle as a design inspiration. Look at nature, of course, or maybe look at an aircraft. Look at the car, or look at a little frog, or look at the headphone, or look at from a mountain bike the brake disc details, whatever. But don't look at the motorcycle. You have to understand the motorcycle, of course, but don't get your design inspiration from another motorcycle. This is very important to me. This is what I do. That's why I even don't have a look at all those how do you call this research pages. I don't have a look at them anymore. Just for certain things, but yeah, just do it. So take mechanical inspirations from the same field or others. This is what I just said. Just if you want to design a motorcycle, you need to understand the functions of it. Otherwise, it won't look realistic in a way. So combine different fields. Of course, nature, technique here, technique there, whatever. And use real-life reference. I also said that. And then the other thing is take your time and get pregnant with your idea. Do do people say that in English? Because in Germany we say get schwanger with it. Means your brain starts developing the idea.
Sure.
In the subconscious, and we call it get pregnant, because do all the research, go away for a week, a couple of days, and then your subconscious will start firing up, and then this is nice, cool, I haven't thought about it, but your subconscious did think about it, and this is really important, but it doesn't really work so much on your daily job, but for your private projects it will definitely improve your designs. So, what was my briefing for the Armadillo? As I told myself, okay, I want a robo-race-like motorcycle, okay, which no human is needed on, and it was supposed to be an off-road FMX bike, so freestyle motocross concept like that. And then I wanted to have a mixture between an animal and a human, so that this animal, human-like creature with arms in the front and his legs in the rear wheel. So that's why with arms and legs. And I wanted to build it in Fusion 360. So I will show you now every single sketch I did for this, but after I got pregnant with it. So those were my first crappy sketches, and I really don't do a lot of sketches anymore, or fancy sketches for me anyway, I don't do anymore, because it's unnecessary. I know what I want in the end. So this was sketch page number 2, and also the pages are exactly like I scanned them. I didn't alter anything here. And I thought, okay, maybe I did this front fork, what kind of wheel with the color split, whatever. And then I did this page also with the fork. How could it look with the front wheel here? And then I said, I came up with this little guy there. It's actually one-to-one the page, how I sketched it. So I said, okay, that's a nice, this is exactly what I want here. I have here the leg, here the arms, the creature-like head here, the big muscle, and there's a really nice flow in it. So I took that sketch here is now, bam, and I brought it to Fusion 360. So let's jump into Fusion, bam. So here we are in Fusion. So we are now in sculpt mode in Fusion, and yeah, this is the part I think most people who are using Fusion are really not using this, but it's actually an amazing tool. Here, the sculpt tool there, and what you can do now is tuck, and just have, and all those surfaces here, everything is nice and smooth connected and G2 curvature. And this is what I actually meant before. Don't break your flow with something like this, because it just looks strange. Never do that. Always try to have a nice line here. Here's the main peak, here's a peak, and then it goes out. So this is what you need to keep in mind. Another thing from the automotive industry, what I do with my vehicles is, when I have, this is called, by the way, a feature line here, the main line, because it just shows the highlight in the end. This is a feature line, and this feature line is always, you can see it pretty good at Audi exteriors. This is a surface, completely flat. The orange part is a nice flat surface. And when you build this feature line here, try to make it on one surface. Because then, doesn't matter where you go in 3D, this line here will always look really nice and clean and perfect. The problem is you can't, in Alias, you can actually take this surface, project a nice curve from the side view, and then you can really align all the surfaces to this projected curve on surface, and then you can just rotate the surface itself, and then all the surfaces, the other surfaces are reconnecting automatically, and then you create the most perfect lines ever. But yeah, this doesn't really work in Fusion, and also in polymodeling programs I haven't seen any program which is able to do this, but this is a really good trick. If you have this, you can see this is almost perfect on one surface here. And yeah, the same for the front one. And that's why all those lines are looking really nice and clean. I know this is really fast to explain, but it would take a little bit longer than just this hour to explain more to you, to explain this way more in detail. And I mean, this is the really cool thing here in Fusion, that you, with the sculpt tool, you can just go out and just emphasize your muscles there. And then when you are done, check, finish form, bam, there you go. And then you have a solid. And with that solid, you can do all your Fusion like operations. Tick, 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 tick. Just showing this, just really roughly. Just it's then, and now intersecting. I'm not explaining how Fusion works, actually. I just show that this is now a proper solid, and you can just do all your Boolean operations with the sculpt tool. This is just amazing.
So if I can ask, in the sculpt mode,
yep.
If I remember correctly, a few years back, Fusion introduced T-splines, right?
Yes, exactly.
So these are T-splines in the sculpt. So those who are working in polygonal programs like Max or Blender, it's similar to edges and polygons, but it has like a different algorithms, and it does some things a lot better than polygons could, I think. If I remember what I was reading about these splines back then.
Yeah, that's correct. The surface quality is way better, and you just create solids with it. I mean, in Alias you have NURBS surfaces. I think in the T-spline is also NURBS surface, but it's usually when you start modeling with something, it's a closed body, and in Alias you don't have a closed body. You see, this is the closed body here now. It's always and in Alias it's different. So, but this is really, it's amazing. It's similar to poly modeling, but it's not poly modeling. That's the point. But another important thing is when you build something automotive-like, always take your rear or front wheel in the center axis somewhere, here where I go. This is really important, because when you go to another CAD program, you will always have this point, and you can always file exchange, and you know that this is 0. Always do this. And if you have two wheels, try to be somewhere in a perfect place also with your front wheel. I mean, it's a concept. It shouldn't be a problem anyway. So, because that way it's always easy to center your wheel again, and it's not floating somewhere else in the space. So, yeah, this was actually the base where I started, just blocking out quick two wheels, the front fork, and just sculpting the body, the legs. This was part 1, and then part 2 is, yeah, you can just go into Fusion again, and then just take your bodies and make it hollow, and this is just amazing here. How fast you can just work with those surfaces. And yeah, this was then this step, and then this step was even further. So I really just go for whatever you want, and with your idea, with your design idea, just do your sculpt thing, just your booleans, and then but think about the functions. And here, this is actually what you can see what I meant. This is the center point here of the fork, and you really see how this can rotate around this corner here. This little feature highlight here. This is what I meant, just emphasize it, because it's kind of cool then. So yeah, this was this step, and now this was the final step. I know there are a lot of steps in between, but like I said, this is not really a Fusion tutorial. It's more like yeah, it's how I start and how I end. Yeah, maybe this I should do some kind of this tutorial. Yeah, maybe in the future. So, but with this thing here, I cheated a bit because I took that part, the main surface, and brought it back to alias because I didn't like the certain thing. And the certain thing is, wait, and this is maybe most of the people wouldn't see it, but I see it and I'm really annoyed by this. When you see this surface here, this flat end surface here, it looks like really unfinished, not really touched, not designed. And most people would leave it like this and say, okay, that's okay, that's fine for me, but that's not really nice and not really automotive. So what did I do? I brought this whole surface, the whole body into alias, and I actually, you can see the difference now, what I did. I just built this complete surface here, this and this, and made everything smaller. And you cannot do this in Fusion. And this looks, and this looks designed now, because somehow you gave the surface another step, another treatment, and you see, okay, this is just, even if you don't really see it, but your subconscious sees it, and that makes it very, just more appealing to your eye. Oh, my voice, my voice getting worse and worse. The same, I did the same here in the front. Let's go back to this guy here. Yeah, there you can even see it even better. You see that this little head here, this oh shit. The surface, it looks kind of disgusting. But when you go back into alias, you really do give it a next step of treatment, and then you think, yeah, that's nice. This is how you would treat an interior model or car exterior. So you just don't leave it flat, and you just give it more acceleration to the end, so that you really think, okay, it's a sculpt and not just a mechanical object. Is that okay? Do you understand that, Marco? Because
definitely. I'm already thinking how this front part already looks like a separate design of some kind of a space vehicle.
That's true. Those are the things. I do this with every design I have. I just really try to give it a next step, which makes it more automotive, and maybe you don't see it off the first view, but you feel it.
Have you done any, since we're talking about design optimization and all that, have you done any generative design tests?
No, I haven't. I haven't played with that yet. Maybe I have to do in the future, but for now I just always love to do what I can do, not what the computer is doing. But maybe I will in the future. This was the final model, and now I'm going to show you because I had another motorcycle concept when I started. This was the off-road motorcycle, and I wanted to have a street racer version of that. And actually, I wanted to build this street racer as well in Fusion, but this was this little nose here. This was my key sketch of this AI racer, and here you can see all those lines. The air outtake here, and the main body, and how this line was supposed to really stay in position, and sadly it was impossible to model in Fusion, so I had to go back to alias and model the whole surface there. But what I do nowadays, I model my stuff in alias, and then I'm going back to Fusion actually and do all the shot lines here, because it's so much faster. And than alias, but here you can see the body. And those kind of connections here between, because this surface, here's a surface, there's a surface. Yeah, this is what you can actually really control in alias. It's very nice. And even those fillets here on top, which connect this surface and this surface, you can just say wherever, okay, I want this a certain width here, a certain width here. It's just so easy, and that this is how you actually design something then in the end.
So in the alias, you basically did all this with splines.
Exactly.
Which is a bit. It is a totally different approach than.
It's a very different approach.
And it's more complicated as well, right?
It's yes and no. The complicated part is you need to know what you're doing, or what you're designing. It's not guessing. It's just really, okay, I want this line 100% there. I want this point there and there 100%, and then I build it. And this you need to be certain of your design. Okay, there's of course you can play around, but it just costs way more time than doing it in the T-spline or in Polygon, because in Polygon model everything sticks together. Somehow you can really change proportions super fast, and this doesn't work in alias. You really need to be certain of what you are doing. And I think due to this that I was modeling so much in alias, and I needed to be sure of what I'm designing, I'm way faster now in my approach of vehicle design than other people, and I'm not guessing anymore. I know, okay, this line needs to be there, and I think this was a big advantage that you get, that I had, because I had to go with it. But like I said, the building those surfaces and knowing what to do is way faster than doing this in Fusion, but it has also a disadvantage to it, of course. And you don't have a closed volume. You need to build a closed volume. And this you don't need in a poly modeling program or in Fusion. You don't need to, it's always closed most of the time. And that's the other advantage.
I'm thinking, since I'm doing most of the work in polygonal programs, for polygonal modeling. Mm-hmm. And I know that I haven't been using Fusion for at least a year now, but I know that it had the option to import objects from other softwares. Yes. and transform them into solids, I think.
Yes, exactly.
And so what I think, like if you're working in ZBrush or, for example, Blender even, or any other software, many of them have this option. Is like how do you call this? So basically, you have this way of editing certain parts of the mesh. Mm-hmm. By affecting, if you would set like a percentage, you have like the center of the interest, and then everything around it is the effect decreases. So proportional editing, I think that's how it's called. So which means that, for example, if you pick points or vertices, in some part of the model, and then you decide to resize it, the ones that you have picked will resize the most by all the others who are coming after will have like
less step by step. They're less increasing, yeah.
Which, I'm not sure, but I'm just thinking maybe if you could do this kind of things in such a program, and then you could maybe import it into Fusion and then transform it into solid. Maybe you could, at least maybe not so precise as in alias, but maybe you could achieve like similar effect that you obviously can't do because of the tool limitations in Fusion.
Yeah, this might help, but really the problem for me always is the precision. And mm-hmm. this is maybe the disadvantage of my education in the automotive industry, that I'm so spoiled with I really want to know. I really want to know how this radius looks. People would okay to just connect something there, but I really want to know how this looks. How does this radius look in the end? It's just not a accident. It's just on purpose how it looks. That this is how you see how I did it. I came up with the shoulder here, this radii here, this, and I thought, okay, I need to have a nice transition to this point. But an alias can really exactly say how this radius will look and grow. So there's no accident, and if you do this, or even in those areas here, I mean, staying here and make a transition to this surface, it's just super complicated. But in alias, it's easy to do. This, yeah.
Basically, for those who don't, who have never used splines, it's basically defining the, let's call it edges or lines, which
a curve, yeah.
Curves, yeah, yep. That intersect at some point, and then based on their shape, the surface gets formed. So you can basically do any kind of curvature or anything, of any complexity.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. It's and you don't have the limitation with polygon counts. This is just something else, and it's very different. But both programs have their polygon modeling, and NURBS modeling has both. They have advantages and disadvantages for certain things, and you need to be sure what you want to do and then choose the program. But I think Fusion is a good mixture between those things, and I think most people will get the designs done here in Fusion, or then just do the ZBrush or whatever, or Blender, for example. It's So, but my next point would be, let's go to Keyshot. Just what do I do in Keyshot when I import those stuff? Because I mean, Keyshot, as most of you know, is such a amazing, easy to use program, especially for all those decals you use or the logos. It's just so fast compared to Octane and Cinema 4D or whatever. It takes ages to do. So, but how to create okay, first let's do what's going on? Here. But let's just talk about again from this top view and what I said about the flow. When you see that the top view here, here's the front, and this flow what I have in my motorcycle, that you really have, it looks dynamic. And if you would do something here, pop out a big thing, it wouldn't look dynamic anymore. That's even from this, and just turn off the and how to, I mean, I just will tell you what's important to me when I do a picture. So let's go to where is it? Wait. There. 3/4 back, the studio, and 3/4. Where is it? 3/4 back. Environment. 3/4. There you go. And image. Let's go back to the square, because I somehow like the squares. So what I do is always, I have those thirds on. This is the rule of third. I mean, I think a lot of you know this rule, but I always like it for my all of my renderings, because it always gives you a really nice proportion of your rendering and of your picture itself. So what I do is I usually try to get this point. I try to somehow let your eye flow. For example, from this point here to here to here, and then you have this proportion in the picture here within those points. And another important thing is then always use the depth of field. Don't do it too much because then it looks like a toy. But the depth of field is super important. For every single picture you take, use the depth of field. Because also, we as a human, we also have a depth of field. I mean, just when you look at something, it's really getting really blurry as soon as you look at something really close to you. I'm just looking at my mic here. And that's why your pictures will look way better when you use this. And then you just, a good way to train your eye is actually just buy a DSLR and use your viewfinder, not the screen for a DSLR. Use the viewfinder, look through the viewfinder, and then try to photograph things, because this is the best way to actually train your eye also for digital art. Because if your eye isn't used to this, it's just difficult to do in in the digital art as well. So just use it in your everyday when you have a camera or whatever. Yep. And my settings. I started actually using just almost all the time the interior mode in KeyShot, because it's way faster, and I can create better shadows somehow. I really don't know why it is, but the interior mode is really good. And of course I'm using an HDRI, because the HDRIs are giving you a way more realistic look for your picture. So if you just do a studio,
if I can interrupt
yes,
you,
do.
Just like a noob user question regarding KeyShot. What's the difference between interior mode and, I mean, since you can use HDRI in both, regarding light and...
I think KeyShot introduced the interior mode, I think in the version 7 or 8, I'm not sure, I think it was 7. I think it's the way all the rays are calculated, but somehow the interior mode is way faster, and the result is often, even with the HDRIs, is better. I don't know why this is. Then, like I said, I'm using the program, and maybe I should get more knowledge about all the physics and the theory behind this. But if you want to know more, just go to Espen Oxholm's. He has a lot of KeyShot tutorials, and he knows his stuff way better than I do. But yeah, it's when I switch, you see, it takes way longer to actually calculate the picture than when I just do the interior mode. It's way faster. And the shadow on the floor also gets better in a way. So just try it out, and if it's better, then use it. At least this is what I do now. And when you have a nice detail with your design, don't be afraid to actually...
Looks like we lost it, but we'll try to reconnect and get Christian back in just a few seconds.
I can still hear you.
Okay. So you're back.
Yeah, I can still... I'm still recording.
Okay. Maybe it's nothing too serious, because you and I have lost connection. At least I couldn't hear you. So please continue like nothing happened.
Yeah, no problem. Don't worry. And because as I record the audio as well, so this will be helpful. So if you do a close-up shot like this, it's always nice to use the depth of field. You immediately see that you create a really interesting picture. Okay, it looks also very more realistic, because I added those little noopsies here, which are actually from the production of a real rubber, because this is how you create things, and that's why I said, look.
This is actually when the cast is set to release air, right?
Exactly, it's from the air. That's why I said, look at how things are produced, and then apply it to your design, and then it will look just more realistic in the end.
So the point of this sort of renders is to show, to emphasize the design features of the concept, right?
Yep.
So for those who are maybe deeper into concept designs for films and games, the point here is not to, you know, show the dirt textures or any kind of super realistic real life things that would happen in real life. This is just to emphasize the design features of the concept.
Exactly. And if you have a nice model or a nice design, then you will also create a very interesting shot. That's also important sometimes. Don't show everything. Just make a really nice, compelling, attractive shot of this. Is due to the depth of field, you create something really, beautiful. And you can do. I mean, you have this in every render engine anyway. I can't really go into Keisha because I think there are so many tutorials anyway out there. But I can just show you my scene setup, which is, very, very easy, simple. And I just go to the performance mode, it's faster. And then another thing which makes your project more credible is actually to design some graphics and company logos, or just invent some logos. And if you do this, your project will also immediately look more interesting, compelling, and more real. Because every product in real life has a brand behind it, and if you can do that with your design, it just looks way more interesting. This is when this mudguard here, whatever, and all my other companies I used, or I just said, okay, how could this company actually be called? And so I said, this is Robomoto, the company behind those vehicles, and then just try to invent a story behind your design. And it will also make it pop more. Just AI motocross this race, and this is how you do it. And in the end, if you combine all of your things, the branding, the design knowledge, a good sculpt, you will have a really good product in the end. Of course, if you can, with some nice pictures. And oh wait, sorry, apologies. I have to play pause, and I just wanted to show you the other design here. No, what did I do? Jeez, missed. This. Okay. What? Down there. So, and here's something else I wanted. Because if you do a night rendering or a dark rendering, whatever, it's very important to have a key light, or rim light, however you want to call it, over your product. Wait, I just have to reduce the size here. I think. Wait, nee, das ist on pause. So, this is the rim light here, the highlight from behind. And because if you don't do this, you can't really read your design. For example, let's just rotate. Yeah, this looks boring in a way, because you can't really read the shape of your design. That's why what you need to do is really just give it a little hint of something here. Ta-da! And it's just way more interesting. And what I also try to do with my renderings, I just try to give it a direction. Means my light comes in from the left or the right side and creates a shadow on the other side while doing so. And this creates a visual interest in, except when you would just do it and just wait. So, I will just create another environment here, a boring one. Watching. Oh wait, I just Brightness. Key. Sorry.
To me zanima da li
Brightness.
to može zapravo
My pin light here.
naš
Radius.
priliku jedan, ajmo reći, lifestyle
50. Brightness. 50.
format.
1. And yeah, those kind of things. Oh, damn it! What did I do? Oh. This looks kind of boring. So. Oh. Yeah, there is no really no visual interest or whatever in your picture when you do this. So that's why I always try to give it a direction from left to right and then with a rim light. That's all. And like you see here, I don't. That's just a normal HDRI. I usually just use a normal HDRI without adding anything to it. What I just do is play with the contrast in the HDRI editor, because this creates in KeyShot better shadows, and in combination with the interior mode, with the product mode. Okay, you can't see it here right now. Somehow the shadow, the cast shadow on the flat surface or whatever, isn't that strong. So that's for that. Yeah, and if you have those images, let's go back to where is it? Apologies, here, Fusion, KeyShot. So, and yeah, and in the end, yeah, you just do a little bit of Photoshop work with all your logos, with your stickers. Yeah, you can come up with some interesting renderings with your design. Yeah, I know this was a lot, and it's quite complicated to really explain my approach and work. I think I would have to do a 10 1-hour episode of everything, and then also showing everything in English.
Well, as I said before this session, I think that you're definitely a good source of knowledge, and maybe a series of webinars or even a course might be something to consider in the future, but we'll see.
Yeah, it depends on the feedback. I mean, apologies to everyone. I mean, it's really complicated. It's just all those years of training and experience in the automotive industry. You can't just put it in 1 hour of a video, and it's just. But I think you have a better knowledge now of how and why I do certain things and how I approach my designs. Like, I always just look at nature. This is my.
I have learned a lot, I must say, during this session, and I can relate to what you said, that you actually were never so. I mean, your interest was never so deep into cars, and it was more about the design itself and shapes, and that's definitely what I can relate to. It's the same thing here, you know, and I can see how, you know, your own knowledge could help me to use the software in a better way. Let's say that way, because I think I know almost everything that you know from the software functionalities, but and the tools they have, but maybe not so much in KeyShot. But it's the knowledge that and the background that you have is what makes a lot of difference. Because if you haven't gone through what you have gone in the past, through the companies where you were working and the project that you're working on, this surely wouldn't be, the final result wouldn't be like it is now, because obviously you're introducing so much, so many proven solutions from the past into your designs of the future. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. And yeah, that's correct. I mean, I think the best way to really see and explain it, I think I would have to come up with the design and record everything, and then also for me it's I'm doing so much of my stuff now intuitive, that I don't have to think about it anymore. This is different when you start. You have to think about why you're doing this. And I just forget about most of the things. It's just coming naturally with me now. That's why it's really difficult to tell. So it would be really interesting if I would do a video tutorial series and then explaining everything step by step by step by step why I did this. I think I could really help a lot of people to improve their design skills. And yeah,
I agree.
I think maybe let's see how your guys' feedback will be, and if you're interested or whatever, just write me over Facebook or Instagram, whatever. Wait, here. Check.
Of course, we are always interested.
Yeah.
So
just always contact me. I try to get back to you, and then maybe I don't know what's in the future and how my book will be, and if you will like it or not, and then let's see then what the future brings to us.
cool. Well, thank you for joining the IFCC 2020 program. Everyone, I hope you liked what Christian has shown you and what he talked about. If you have any feedback, let us know. As we mentioned, if you would be interested in learning more from Christian, also let us know. And
just
here you can
contact.
Yeah.
Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you a portrait painting, and I'm gonna share with you guys my drawing process from sketch, color and to the final. It took me around 2 hours to finish this, but I double up the speed so the video is around 1 hour. Normally I will start from the sketch with line first. Unless you have a strong understanding in form and shape, then you can sketch with color. But my opinion for beginner is better sketch with line. In this stage, what I will consider is the layout and composition. Try to get the right angle for the character, and of course also the character design and showing a right expression and emotion of the character. Sometimes I also try to come up with few different sketches and see which one is more suitable. And I actually inspire a lot by Japan manga, so my character face wouldn't be too realistic. But of course it's not totally manga too. And let's say from manga style to realistic is 1 to 5. I think my style is on 3 or 3.5. But I still need to take care of the proportion of face, even though it's not realistic. Although this drawing is only showing upper body, I still need to make sure the anatomy right, like the angle of the neck and perspective of the shoulder. Try to make everything looks natural. And there's a funny thing always happen to me, which is every time I'm done a sketch, I feel like everything looks good in terms of the proportion and anatomy. But when I come to color and start to adding detail, then I will find out my proportion and anatomy was wrong. But it's not a big deal. We can fix that in the coloring stage. It doesn't need to be too detailed for the sketch, as long as it shows the idea, character design and composition that you want. And also, I wouldn't draw out some of the design of the character in the sketch first, especially those small accessories that overlapping on the character, because it's much more easier to add it on in the coloring stage. For example, I know this character is going to have earring, but I will not put it in the sketch first, and I will add it on in the coloring stage. Alright, I think the sketch is good enough to start color. And let's go for a dark background, but not black. I won't use a lot of black color in my painting. Mostly it's like dark gray. You can see a low contrast value in my drawing. That's the reason why I don't use a lot of black color. Maybe just some parts to make the main object or character outstanding. The base color is something like a shadow color or an environment color. Usually I like to use a low saturated green as my base color. I find it more easier to achieve a nice skin tone by that. It's like a soft and translucent skin tone, something like that. And I think the saturation have to raise a little bit, so you can adjust it by using the hue and saturation adjustment tool. For next, I will start to consider the lighting. Where should the light source coming from? And I use a lot of top light. I like the mood and the atmosphere created by the top light. It's pretty fit to the scene that I always draw. I can say it's a bit of gloomy. And now I will going to find a mid-tone for every part, like skin, hair, and cloth. If you are not really sure which color is the correct one, what you can do is separate different parts in different layers, so it is easy to adjust by using the hue and saturation. In this stage, you have to understand the form and shape of the character, because when the character is under top light, you have to know which part is highlight, which part is shadow, and where we'll get a cast shadow. It's really important. You can't make it right if you don't know the form and the shape of the character. I use a low saturate color for the skin, but I will add some high saturate color on lip, cheek, and some makeup under the eye. If not, the entire face will look pale. Even though most of the face is not hitting by light, but you can't leave the skin in just one tone. You have to show the face form and shape. What I will do is adding some weak highlight on it. One thing I like to use the top light is I can make the light go through the ear and create a nice red light effect. In this stage, what I need to do is just find the right color and lighting. I wouldn't go for the detail yet, so it doesn't need to zoom in. Just stay like this and make sure you can see the entire image when put on the card. It's easy to control the value. Once the color and lighting is okay, then I will flatten the layers. I feel the face is too dark. You can use dodge tool to make it brighter instead of pan on it, and also can adjust by using levers. There are 3 ranges of dodge tool. You can find the setting on the top left of Photoshop. Every range comes up with different results. You can try to play around with it. I feel the comparison between warm and cold color is not obvious. I will adjust it by using color balance. From here, I see there are too much of warm color, so I adjust the highlight slightly to blue. For the next step, I will remove the outline but only leave the eye, nose and mouth. The reason why I do this is because it will be hard to make the detail if the outline is still there. Instead of that, I rather remove it now. I use a lot of smudge tool for the color blending. It works pretty well to make the transition from color to color. And it also helps to remove the outline by blurring it. Now I start to make detail for the face and also fix the light and shadow to make it look more natural. And I think the best tool in Photoshop is Liquify. It's very easy to adjust the proportion by using it. The entire image still looks too pale. So I think I need to raise up the saturation a little bit more. And you can notice I always zoom in and out. This is because I want to make sure the whole image value is right. Besides adding detail, I also keep adjusting the proportion and structure. As I mentioned before, sure there are some problems here when I start to adding detail, even though it was good in Sketch. And I wouldn't stay in one place to paint. I prefer to jump here and there. This is also help to control the value and make sure the detail of every parts are equal and balanced. I actually like to draw folding on cloth, as it makes my drawing looks more realistic and full, even though they are just a little part of cloth shown in this drawing, but I will still try to put on some folding on the cloth. And you can't simply add in, it has to make sense and natural. Sometimes I will separate parts in different layers to arrange the front and back item. It's much easier for me to do my task. Now I try to polish the hair. First thing I need to do is get the flow and silhouette right. And it's like to make the hairstyle looks better, how to design the flow of the hair that coming out from the back of the ear. And I wouldn't put too much detail on the hair, maybe just some in the end of the hair, because I don't want to make it look over detailed compared to the face. Normally I only use one brush to paint everything from sketch to the end. I enjoy to paint everything by myself. Now I want to add on some red color on the cheek. Since I already done the light and shadow of face, so I can just add it on by using a new multiply layer. It will still remain the light and shadow that I already done. I like to make everything in my drawing like clay. For example, I know a realistic eye should have a specular and looks glossy. But I personally like matte color. You can notice I almost remove all specular in my drawing. So I think every different art style are forming by the artist's preferences. In the process of adding detail, as you can see, I'm still keep adjusting the proportion of the character. Now I add on some hair detail. They must have some short hair drop out. And it's also make the hairstyle looks more natural. I feel the hair looks a little bit flat now, and I want to make the hair highlights more standing out. But I can't add on a brighter color anymore because the highlight is almost like white color now. So what can I do is add in some darker color to make the highlight pops out. Overall looks good now, but it's not finished yet. I still need more detail for the character, and let's add on the earring now. I don't need to sketch for the earring because it's just a simple shape and I already have the design in my mind. I will use a darker color to make the shape or the form of the earring first and add on the highlight after that. Instead of make a simple earring, I prefer to make it more interesting. We can design by using some nice elements that's suitable to the character. Since both earrings are same design, so I don't need to draw again. I can just copy and paste, but remember to scale it down due to the perspective. And also change the lighting, otherwise it would look unnatural. And of course the angle of this little head as well. I don't want to make it too obvious, this is copy and paste from another. and I make the earring behind darker just to show the depth between both earrings. Now everything are big in the drawing, so I think we need some small detail or small design to enrich the image. It's like 90% complete right now. In this stage, usually I will try to figure out is there anything that I can add to enhance the whole image, because I think I can still add on some interesting elements to make the drawing looks better. And let's add on something on the bun. Same as the earring, I put on dark color first, then highlight after that. and usually I like to add some blue or green color in certain area, mostly at the edge between color. It's just for enrich the entire drawing. This is like what I did to the eyebrow just now. It's just for enhance the entire image. It's almost complete right now. I just jumping here and there to see is there anything still need to fix. I still think can push a little further on the design. Let's add a tattoo on her neck. I actually use quite a lot of tattoo elements on my character design, which is I think is pretty suitable for my character. And yes, we can add some more design on the cloth as well. And I think I can still add on a hairpin for the character. Alright, I think that's all for this video, and thank you guys for watching this, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.